Alright, the wagon's up on jack stands right now. My dad still has to get some of his parts off. He needs these brakes for the other car. I went ahead and got the fender off, just looking at what I'm dealing with. So I'm probably going to try to take this apart as tastefully as possible. You know, draw out all the spot welds for things I don't need, and drop the subframe, and then I should just be left with the firewall. Alright, just working at getting this apart still. Got most of the grill out, still got to get all the wiring. Basically just going to strip this down to the bare metal before we start taking everything out. So I'm going to get all the front end pieces off, the springs, and then probably just start taking this apart in pieces. So this one isn't spot welded, that's like got a full weld, so these welds got to be taken down. And then, you know, remove these spot welds, and I'll just start taking, you know, panel off by panel. So this, these top parts, the sides, inner fender wells, I'm gonna get everything off, and then I can deal with the frame rail itself. Might take this off first too. Alright, I've just been going crazy on this thing. Got all the front end and suspension out. There's the bumper. You know, just getting all the little odds and ends, all the brake line fittings off. Got all the wire loom out of the front. I still got to get it back here at the firewall. Master cylinder's off. Got the steering gearbox off. I still have to get this other strut rod off. Yeah, all the little brake hardware is off. I just got to get these brake lines done, and the wire loom unbolted on the inside of the firewall. Might as well just leave this for now. It's not hurting anything. Windshield motor. Yeah, just a couple more incidentals. Those trans lines right there. Part of the fuel line bulkhead right there. But yeah, pretty much everything's unbolted and undone, and I can start taking apart the sheet metal, drilling out all the spot welds and all this, and then I can you know, probably take off the fender weld, take off the radiator support, and then I'll probably you know, take these off in sections. So take off this layer, this outer skin right here, and I can get to the inner fender well better. Then, like I said, hopefully once I get down to the frame rail, then it sits in this pocket right here, and then I'll deal with all this, because this connects into the sub frame that runs all the way along the side of the car. Basically the frame rail goes here and then goes left, and then there's a, basically right there is a hollow tube, and that goes all the way back to the subframe in the back. So I'm gonna probably have to cut into that channel to put the frame, but where the Crown Vic chassis is going to sit, so like it's a nice flat spot right there, but I have a feeling it's too high, so all this panel is going to need to come out, and it's going to need to go up like 3 or 4 inches at least. But yeah, right here, that's where the frame rail is going to ride. Yeah, so that the frame rail goes into this box, and then it cuts left, and then goes into that tube right there, and then it goes back into the subframe in the back. All this right here where the transmission goes to pretty much really isn't even connected. It's spot welded right there, but other than that, it's just kind of like free hanging. And all this support right here is just a floor pan support. So that's literally not connected to the subframe at all, or the trans mounts. That's literally just a floor pan, supports the floor pan. So that should actually be staying in place unless it gets in the way. so I don't have a spot weld drill bit right now, so I've just been, you know, drill it with a small one and then a big bit. And I was using the air hammer to get this off, and it was just, I blew a couple holes in here, and so I'm just taking a little slower now. You can see on the front, I had to drill like 19 holes just to get the inner fender. And but I drill it, and then I just take a pry bar to it, and if there's any little snags, I just pound through it with a metal chisel. And right here, the radiator support goes back and connects to the bottom of this frame rail, but I'm probably just going to cut it right here. If we ever need to use these pieces for a car, it wouldn't be a big deal to weld those. You know, it's kind of, you can almost see them better on camera. It's kind of hard to see the spot welds a little bit. But, you know, if you get at an angle, you can see them. It's kind of hard to tell up here. But you can, on the inside, the fender well goes straight down and then down at an angle. So you kind of know that you got to follow this line. Yeah, getting the sun to do the work for you, the glare works good. Plus just sometimes just feeling. Not as much on this side, but on the other side where I was having trouble seeing, I just kind of put my hands across and you could feel where the panel, where it went from flat to like, what is that? And then so you know, you got to drill those out. Alright, got the radiator support off. I'm still not exactly sure if I want to take out the whole inner fender well and leave the frame rails, or maybe like, you know, take this apart and do like this side with the frame rail and fender well. Not really sure, but I'll figure it out. Yeah, especially, I mean, this one you can kind of see them, but especially this one you can feel, you can really feel these spot welds. But another thing too is, if you notice, they're kind of evenly spaced. So if you went from here and you see these two, you kind of know to look for this one because they're, you know, evenly spaced apart. Okay, I got the other top brace out right here. I think for the sake of safety and sanity, because to get in here and get all those spot welds out with the possibility of it coming loose is kind of sketchy. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut it right at the top. On this side I'm going to cut, because there's a brace that runs underneath, but I'm just going to cut it right here so it's right even with the firewall lip. And that'll take this top piece loose. On the other side, just going to cut this bracket somewhere. Then this whole top piece will be loose. And then on just both of them, I'm going to cut down the edge of the firewall. But I'm going to keep some of this inner fender skirt where I can bolt the hood hinge back to. Same on that side. So I'm going to, you know, the inner fender skirt, I'm going to cut it. Then I can keep a lot of the hood hinge. And then this I'm going to keep to bolt the fender to, and keep the VIN numbers on the car in case anyone wants to ask for additional VIN. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the top part, cut out the inner fender well, and then basically just lop that off right there, because I don't know how much of this torque box that I need to keep for supporting the frame, so I don't necessarily want to go all the way in if I want to keep part of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just trim it all off right here and take this off in one chunk from the top. I shouldn't even have to get underneath the car. Alright, so I got both of these disconnected at the top. I got the bracing off on both sides, bracing off, that's disconnected. And I decided to cut out the inner fender well, favoring the inside so it doesn't mess up where the shock tower goes on. I can always replace that inner fender well. Plus I kept right here where I decided to cut it so the shock or the hood mount can bolt up. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut the frame with the torch right here. Probably go, you know, keep it straight with the firewall, and I'll be able to keep as much as this flat spot I need. And then I'll have just the bare firewall, and I can start, once I get the rear end out, I can test how the frame sits right here, and I know how I have to adjust this. And I'm just gonna, you know, cut it and let it pie cut and kind of fall fall on these tires, and then when the tops are cut, I'll go ahead and once it falls down a little bit, I'll cut the bottom. Kind of hard to see, but you know, I got it pie cut. So that's gonna cut the bottom now. Alright, got the rear end out. Now just taking it apart so it could go into storage. Still got to get the shocks off and like some of the bumpers and stuff. But all the brake line and fuel line's out right now too. It's completely out. Front end's completely off. All the brake lines, fuel lines are off. Shocks have to come out, but I got a whole bunch of junk piled in the back, so all that needs to come out before I can get to the top of those. But basically this is just on hold now. Might tinker with it a little bit, but this is just on hold until I can get the frame, the Mercury Marquis, completely stripped, and then we'll just back the frame under and we'll test fit it and see how much of this subframe in the back I have to cut out, or if I have to cut inside these bottom frame rails, or the, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, the rocker. But yeah, this is just gonna worry about getting this cleaned out and then getting the frame prepped to start test fitting. Alright, I started ripping the dashboard apart. I still never cleaned the car out. I guess I'll just, you know, clean it all out at the when the parts come out. I took all this out and put the radio back in so I could listen to it. Yeah, getting everything out pretty good. Keeping the, you know, the AC center or temperature control center, and then here's like a, I think this is the temperature sensor for the air inside the car. Got the gauge out. So yeah, I'm gonna take the steering column out. I'm still not quite sure how I'm gonna, you know, what I'm gonna do about the ignition and turn signals, if I'm gonna use the old steering column out of the 68 or if I'm gonna try to put this one in. But the car's still, you know, I have basically this is still plugged in right here, but you know, most of the shit's unplugged from the dash and the car's still, I guess some of it still starts. I guess some of the newer cars, there was some concern with the gauge cluster being tied into the security for the ignition. So, but it's fine on here. I don't have to worry about that. This is what went to the air sensor, so I just plugged it so, you know, I don't drop something in there. The vacuum lines that were in here, I found an old cigarette wrapper and a hair tie, and I, you know, covered the vacuum lines up. So, you know, again, so I don't get it plugged with something stupid while I'm working on it. But yeah, first things first, get this dash out. Get the AC and heater stuff that's behind the dash undone. Get the steering column out and, you know, remove pedals and, you know, just stuff like that. Just slowly tearing the car down. Just trying to be careful and paying attention to things so I can maybe see what I have to use or want to use and what I can not worry about. Alright, when I had started taking this dashboard apart, that's about as far as I got. and then I went and did what you seen with the station wagon. So now that's all done. So I'm just working on this now, getting it. I'm taking out all the interior first. Then I'll finish taking out the steering column and the dash. I had a guy that was interested in door panels, so go ahead and getting those off now, so we can see how good they are. But yeah, I need to unplug the battery soon because I have all these wires hanging. But I want to get these seats out because they're electric. Get the seats out first, and I should be able to unplug the battery, and everything else should just come out fine. Alright, I got the door panels off, seats out, getting this back seat out right now. I'm going to probably go ahead and leave all the, windows and stuff up and regulators and stuff in there and just pull the wiring out and then just take the doors off as a whole. And if I'm going to sell any parts, I'll just take them out when people need them. Or I could just, sell the whole door with everything in it. I might keep the door lock actuators that, make the locks go up and down. And maybe try to use them for door poppers or put them on the locks of the wagon. Yeah, I'm going to get this stripped out and then time for the dash, rest of the dash. Alright, well, I got the dash out. Pretty much a mess. Didn't really break anything. Broke a couple, maybe part of that, a couple screws on the air ducts. But where the air comes out right here, I'm going to do something like make an adapter or whatever. And I'll be able to route into the stock vents for the wagon. Same with the defrost. Where the defrost comes out, I'll route into the stock defrost vents for that. So that's no big deal. Yeah, I got all the clips out. I think, most of this stuff's pretty self-explanatory what it is. And like what it goes to, but I think before, there's the stereo stuff right there. Alright, here's the dash out of the Mercury Marquis. I'm going to use a lot of the inner frame. Partly because the steering column I'm going to use is so much wider right here than the stock steering column. And I don't really feel like cutting up that dash if I don't have to. So I'm going to use this as an inner frame from this and rebuild. And then I'll use the stock dash cover from the Montego to go over this frame. Then I'll probably build something right here if I can. And this was the original padded dash. Just stripped the dash off of it a long time ago and painted it. Alright, so here's the metal separate from the plastic part. And so now I'll be able to mount the steering column easy. I'll just have to figure out how to mount this into the wagon. And it's a little longer, so I probably can trim it, make new brackets or whatever. But say a lot of this I'm not going to use. I don't want it to look new at all on the inside. So probably just going to go ahead and trim all this bottom part. And then I'll have just this face to work off of to do what I want. Same right here, I might get rid of a lot of this. But what's cool is, so now I still have like the bracket, it's a little bent, but that's the bracket for some of the electronics and the OBD2 sensor. This can bolt right up, so. And then I'll probably take the plastic out of here to mount back on the metal so I can mount the gauges real easy. And I'll probably take the plastic off of here and maybe work something into the metal for that too, to put the heater controls back in, because I do want to use the original heater controls and gauges. But here's kind of a loose mock-up of the dash. Not too bad, honestly, in my opinion. Alright, got the hood off. I'm just working to getting the fenders off now. Got to get this whole cowl and wiper assembly off. You know, still a lot to do in here. But I figured, you know, go ahead and get the fender off right here, and then I can, you know, get to all this wiring shit easier, and it's all got to come apart anyway. So still just working at it. You know, I started with taking the stuff off the fender well, then I was able to get all of these plugs easy, then I got the rest of the harnesses out right here, unplugged the computer, then, you know, just getting the vacuum lines out of the way so they don't break. I pulled those through the firewall. I plan on keeping all the vacuum attachments on the wagon, so I got to be real careful with all that. Got the air line out of the way, it's still good. The air pump right here is on the inner fender well. Yeah, I got the fender out. Just slowly but surely. I want to keep this radiator support, which is cool that it doesn't really, the headlights are more built into the front, so I'll be able to build off this radiator support hopefully to do the headlights for the wagon. But yeah, it's coming along. Alright, I got the master cylinder off. Here's the steering link, or the steering shaft coming off the steering gearbox. And I'm gonna get all this line back up, and I'm gonna take a degree of that, and you know, when I install it on the wagon, if I can stay within the same angle of that, I'm gonna try. You know, I don't think it has to be perfect, but if I can, you know, mimic what they did from the factory, it's probably a good idea. Got the heater lines disconnected, so I can take off this box. Probably leave all this wiring on, just as loom needs to come out through the bottom, and hopefully this box will just come off. Yeah, I got the heater hoses off, and then I found some whiskey caps that capped them off. So yeah, if I can, I'm going to try to keep all the fluid and lines connected with everything as much as I can, and just put it back together and keep the cost down. Yeah, next I'm going to remove the window, or got to remove the glass soon. So yeah, get all the trim and stuff out of the way, and then you can get to the glass. I've lucked out. I've removed a few of these in the past, and these are never really fun. I lucked out on this one though. See if we can get in there. I lucked out on this one though. As soon as I pulled out the trim, you can see the glass wasn't fully seated. So it'll be easy to get in here with some wire. Normally I use piano wire and string it through, and then just drag it all the way through and cut it in like a saw motion. But it's cool, the hard part's the starting point. So we got a great starting point right here in this gap. Alright, I got the rest of the stuff off on this side. The emergency brake cable's off. The hood cable's out. All the throttle cables are completely through. And also got the steering shaft completely out. And I checked the angle on that. It was about 11 to like 12.5 degrees. So that's the ballpark. So that'll be fine. Now basically this side's done. I mean, I still have to unbolt everything, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of this stuff off the firewall over here. Then once all that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and strip the rest of the car down, and then take the doors off. Yeah, strip the rest of the car down, get all the electrical out, strip the doors off, get the glass out, front and rear, and then I'll go ahead and start cutting the body up. And you know, this whole driver's side was messed up. Both fenders were shot. Both fenders are all bent up. The hood and the grill were the only good thing on the front. The plastic in the floor was all cracked. This quarter panel's messed up. Both doors are messed up. So I'm just going to take all the parts out of the doors, the glass, take the mirror off, because I mean, it's still good. It's just missing this cover. Yeah, those doors are pretty much scrap. The doors on the other side are okay. I never took one of these roofs apart before, so I was surprised to see this. Oh. Surprised to see this underneath. But the trunk's good. But I might need pieces for my other car. So I'll scavenge whatever's good and either sell it or use it for another project. Alright, well, I got the whole heater and AC assembly off. You know, blower motor, heater core. Oh no, that's the, I'm sorry. That's the AC core. I'm not sure what you call that. Heater core's on the inside. But yeah, there's the firewall. I still don't know exactly how I'm going to mount this box, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, everything's off the firewall now. So I'm just going to keep, like I said, moving back in the car, getting everything else off till it's just a bare body, and then I'll get the body off. Just slowly stripping this down still. Got both the passenger doors off, getting the driver doors off. But I just got to get out the carpet and the headliner. All the stuff's unbolted, they just rip out. The rest of the wiring should come out. And then I remove this glass front and rear. Then just remove the body. Alright, basically got the whole car gutted. All the wiring's out. Headliner. Everything. I still have some stuff in the trunk I was storing. But yeah, that's basically it. Just got to unbolt it, unbolt the gas tank. But right now I'm removing the windshield. And see right here, I have some piano wire. It's just attached to this pipe. I twisted it around so it's tight. On the other side, I just have use that as a handle, loop it through. It's actually pretty comfortable. See the wire coming through the other side. And what you do is you just grab both sides, and you pull one side through and the other side through, and you go back and forth like a sawing motion, and it'll help cut through that trim. And once you get a clean cut all the way around, you should be able to just push the window right out. And just remember, when the glass is cut, it's cut. I mean, it comes out. So if you're meeting any resistance, that means you haven't fully cut through this rubber yet. And literally, all I used was some piano wire, and I double stranded it. And if it heats up, you just got to slow down. You want to go at it cool. And just something to brace. You seen how I use the pipe and that wheel just to keep the wire out of your hand, and something solid to hold on to. Then just get around and saw it. I lucked out on this one because the seal was broke. Otherwise, you gotta, pry in here and carefully get out some rubber or poke something through to get it started. Alright, that's it. I got all the bolts off. There's on this side there's 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 14 bolts total, I'm pretty sure. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 14. 14 bolts total. Again, I cut the freaking window out with just a wire and a chair wheel and a piece of pipe. So, piano wire. It's not rocket science. But you can see where it, just cutting at it. The one thing I'm going to do, because I had it on ramps right now to get the gas tank out. I might wedge something under the body to the ground, and when I pull the ramps out, it'll leave the body in the air and drop the frame. And then that'll raise the body up so I can, you know, cut it. Another option is to like literally just a few buddies rip the whole car off, but I'm doing this by myself. The other thing is, you know, get it on this side and flip it. But I really don't have the room right now. I got a whole bunch of junk piled up. Plus, I'm not trying to kill my back. The other downside to flipping it, as you can see right there, like imagine if it was coming my side, the wheel well could actually catch on the tire. So that's another reason to maybe have the jack backed up, drop the frame, and then maybe flip it so it doesn't get caught on the tire or wheel, or just remove the tire. Then it could get caught on the brake. But what I'm going to do is I might need some of the firewall. Go ahead and just like cut the roof off, and then with the, hopefully between the body and the frame, you know, when I let the frame down, keep the body up, there'll be a gap between the frame. I'll cut it, so I'll get the roof off and then split this whole thing in half, so it'll be like 3 parts, and I can move that around by myself, semi-manageable. Plus the trunk, I have another project where I might actually need part of this trunk. So I'm not sure how much I want to cut up of this right now. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I've been throwing all the little plastic pieces back here. I'm gonna go ahead and get all this shit out, get all the little odds and ends off the car, and start cutting it up. Plus, I did this whole car with hand tools so far. Every bit of the car I took apart has been a hand tool, and I've been out here in the dirt. I will use the Sawzall though. Alright, I let down the rear end, and I put these big stands I have under the body. Made sure not to push it in so far it hit the frame, so it just caught the body. Let the rear end of the frame down, and now you can see the body's lifted up off the frame. It's perfectly centered on that jack I put in over here. Yeah, it's perfectly centered on that jack, the body. So, now that I know I got a decent gap, I can get in there with the Sawzall without, like, you know, chopping in the transmission or the drive shaft, and just got to be careful. But yeah, way better now. Almost there. Just chop this up and be good to go. And you know, now's a good time to make sure you got everything. That reminds me, I actually forgot this one cable. I think this is the wheel sensor. You gotta push this grommet through. There we go. Yeah, I thought I had everything. That should be the last thing. Well, I cut the roof off, and I started to cut through the floorboard. But I was having a pain getting in there at the Sawzall. I could have used the torch or something, but I remembered these brake lines were here, and luckily I didn't get them. So I said, screw it. I just manhandled the shit out of that, and it did get caught on the tire. I just had to keep wiggling and pushing. The metal's pressing up against the tire kind of right now. I gotta figure that out, but I mean, there's the frame, Mark 8. Yeah, here's the frame and the body. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the frame, maybe ratchet strap this to the scaffolding over here, hold it up, and then go ahead and pull the frame out, and then just let this thing back on the ground to cut it up. Strap that to the scaffolding right there. I'll be able to, it's not really that heavy, I'm able to, like, well, I can't do it one-handed, you know, shift it over and back it out the gate here. Yeah, see the scaffolding, it's holding it. When I sit this back down and get the rear window out, should be fine. Alright, well I got the frame, the body off the frame of the Mercury. This is the Wagon. There's a whole bunch of parts in here that need cleaned out. This dash is going to have to come completely out. Get out the stock heater box. Yeah, get out the stock heater box, get the dash all completely out. So I'm going to use the Grand Marquis steering column. Got this wheel I've had for a long time. Just got to put it on with an adapter. But probably show all this coming out later. I messed up my finger, so there's the dash from the Mercury, the Grand Marquis. That'll be used to go in here. Now that I'm just toying with figuring out how to lift the body up so I can get the frame to go under. And here's some camper jacks. These ones need repaired. I need to get a couple more camper jacks or something, and I want to figure out a way that can jack the body up on the outside, and so the frame can just roll right under. If I had some gantries or something to hang all this from, that'd be cool. But this seems like the more affordable option to go with right now. So that's it for now, but hopefully next time in the next video, we'll start getting this lifted up and things test fitted.